Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Dr. Herbert Harris, and this is Success Mentorship class number 337. Wow. And our topic for today is when your past comes calling. When your past comes calling. You know, sometimes when your past comes calling, you might say, I wasn't looking forward to that. But sometimes that's the way it is. Your past shows up regardless of whether you're looking for it or not. But that can be a good thing. So this topic I picked it because as we move through the year, we've been looking at ways to increase our efficiency, ways to help us to literally operate better, operate more efficiently, to get things done, important things, things that will change our lives forever. Of course, a lot of our teachings are based on our book, The 12 Universal Laws of Success, and on all of the great conversations we've had before in our Success Mentorship class. I want to welcome those of you on Instagram. Thanks so much for joining us today. And also welcome the Success Mentorship class, which is you might say we're always here. This is the class that keeps it all going. Oh, we have more people joining us. Wow, great, great, great. As we move through the year, we find that many times the moment we get right there at the great victory, the moment it seems like we're standing at the door to greatness, something happens. And often that thing that happens is our past. It comes popping up out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it sort of brings things into our minds and into our vibrations and into our emotions that really, it just makes it makes us cringe. And so we're going to be dealing with that because that type of vibration can be exactly what's keeping you from flying, from taking off, and doing the things you were destined to do. Before we get started, let us do our meditation so that we can get centered in the present moment and open and receptive to the message. Let's close our outer eyes, open our inner eyes, sit straight up in our seats, take a deep breath and hold it. Let it out slowly. Take a deep breath and hold it. Let it out slowly. And in this space of peace and relaxation, I am at peace with myself. Let us affirm that together. I am at peace with myself. And just let that peace sink in. And in this state of peaceful awareness, our minds are open, receptive, and ready to learn. My mind is open, receptive, and ready to learn. Let us affirm that together. My mind is open, receptive, and ready to learn. Just let that sink in. Take a deep breath. Let it out slow. And in this state of peace and relaxation, we are ready to move into the message. I love there's a quote that I think is so apropos. And it says, this is Acide Hoptwal, a foreign writer. And he said that if the past calls up no regrets, our lives will be happy in the present and our hopes bright in the future. There's another quote. It says, the past is your lesson. The present is your gift. The future is your motivation. I wanted to really take this topic because at this point in the year and at this point in our lives, so many of us are ready to make a breakthrough. And so when your past starts calling for you, sometimes it may be people that blast from the past, people that you knew in the past and didn't particularly care for it. One of the things to really look out for is when people who really didn't like you in the past start showing up. It might be a lesson that you have to learn. But the message is that when your past starts calling you, that's a sign that there's a change, that there's something important going on in your life. And that now is the time to be prepared to move to that next level. You're standing at the door to greatness, and that blast from the past just comes. Sometimes, it may be internal, that fear, that doubt. It may be external, that dreaded phone call, that person that you don't want to see, people who are going against you, your David and Goliath moment. But whatever that thing is, whatever that blast from the past is, it's telling you something that's critical, that's important about your future growth. It may be saying, you don't deserve it. So many times I've seen people really work hard and get right there on the brink of greatness and then just falter. There's a saying, they snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And it may be that past feeling that they don't deserve it, that they're not worthy of it, that whatever has happened in the past has damaged them in such a way that they just don't think good things will come to them. Sometimes people say, well, I didn't come from a good family, so I don't deserve this kind of success. Some people say, don't even have a family. You think about some of the different people you meet in the world. There's a Joe Jacket. Joe's been on the call sometimes. And I was interviewing him, and he was sharing a story of saying when he was 14 years old, his mother died. And within 30 days, his dad was killed. So at 14, he lost both parents. And he was a lost soul. But when he looked back on that, that was a motivation that kept him going, that kept him moving, that kept him succeeding. And now he lives in a 13,000 square foot home. So many cars, you think he's got a used car lot in the yard, about 2.5, 3 acres. A serious property flipper. There are people who buy a house for 50,000 and sell it for 100. But Joe's one that buys a house for $1 million and sells it for 3. But he didn't have a family, but yet he succeeded. Some people don't even, never even had parents. I have a fellow I met, Phil, and he was sharing a story. We were in a great seminar once, all the top leaders, all the top speakers. And he said, I was left on the steps of a church. My parents didn't even want me. And it took him a lifetime to get to that point where he could get beyond that. A lifetime to overcome that. So the past can capture you, can keep you tied down. It may be a lesson in self-discipline. You know, life is about lessons, and the past always brings back those lessons unlearned. You know, every time I think about, the stages of life, the first stage of life is the stage of education where you learn how to live. And the second stage of life is the stage of sensation and experience where you learn emotional things, love and drugs and sex and just all of those kind of things. And then the third stage of life is the stage of power. And the fourth stage is the stage of immortality. But if you don't learn the lesson in the previous stages, it will come back to bite you. Think about Bill Clinton, President Clinton. 2 terms. And when you really look back, he was a pretty good president. But when that blast from the past came to him, those past behaviors that he had done when he was a governor, when he was in the state legislature, now as a president, when that message came to him that you can't take those behaviors into this next level of your life, he didn't hear it. And so no matter what he did, all people really remember about Bill Clinton is Monica Lewinsky and that whole incident in the White House. So this idea of the past is calling you, it's okay. Don't fear it. Don't be upset about it because it's necessary. It's a natural part of life for the past to call you to give you the necessary tools to go forward. You know, there's some people who have that scared emotion, or what do you call them? Scaredy cats. I remember a fella here in Wilmington was one of the most incredible athletes I've ever met. But he was afraid to leave home. The other guy, there was a team of them, he and another fella. It was Punkum and Thusum, okay? And Punkum went on to become a professional baseball player, and Thusum stayed here working in the gym. And so what I'm saying is that fear inside sometimes of stepping out on your own. Many times, success is really a personal journey. It helps to have a team in place, but you always bring yourself to the party. And those blasts from the past are often messages to let you know you need to do some work before you move to the next level. You think about a young person leaving America when racism was rampant in America in the 30s, 40s. Think about Josephine Baker. I was watching the Olympics in Paris, and I thought so much of the famous dancer and entertainer Josephine Baker, a Black lady, African-American dancer, who was so hurt by racism, she left the country by herself at 19 years old and went to France. Can you imagine if she had been afraid, if she had let those doubts from the past of all the negative things that had happened to her keep her from going out? We would have never had a great gift to the world. If you read about her life, you will be amazed. She met with the Nazis. She got the French cross. What is it? The Croix de Guerre, one of the highest honors that you can get, because she served almost as a spy during World War II. And so this idea of when you get that blast from the past, it's a sign that you need to change something before you can move to the next level in your growth. It maybe you need to change some thoughts. Maybe you're just like rampant with negative thoughts. Maybe you need to change some emotions. Maybe that emotion of fear, of insecurity, of self-doubt. Maybe you need to change some habits, health habits, tardiness habits. And definitely maybe you need to change some relationships. As you go onto the boat that is your life to journey across the river of time, you have a crew. And these are the people you permit to come into your life, and they can either undermine you or help you. They can either lift you up or tear you down. And so when you get these blasts from the past, these people who want to come into your life, they can be either a source of strength or a source of defeat. So let's look at this. Knowing that we have these blasts from the past, knowing that this doubt sometimes can come up as we're getting ready to make a transition, and the closer you get to your victory, the closer you get to your success, the stronger these vibrations. And so when you have these blasts from these past, the moments of self-doubt, people who reach out to you, situations that seem to stop you in your tracks, how do you handle it? Number one, when you get a blast from the past, that moment of self-doubt, acknowledge it. Don't ignore it. You know, you get that feeling of insecurity. This great opportunity is standing there before you, and all you have to do is follow the plan. Take the steps that are already laid out. And this insecurity creeps up and says, I can't do it. I've been so unsuccessful in the past. I've failed so many times before. I don't want to go through that again. So when you don't acknowledge the past, those emotions can give you stress, anxiety, and can keep you captured in the vibration of the past. So when you have those flashbacks, it can be either flashback of faith or flashback of fear. Now, many of the things from the past are not negative. When you have that moment now where you have to think back, you know, I remember walking on the coals many years ago with Tony Robbins. And at the time, I've told you the story many times before, but at the time, there was no way I was going to walk over 16 feet of hot coals. We're talking 1,100 degrees in my bare feet. I'd have to be crazy. But when I saw somebody else do it, Tammy, a good friend of ours, when I saw Tammy walk across that, you know, and that's why it's so important when, in whatever you're doing, the people close to you, because they can either give you inspiration or create desperation. If Tammy had said, no way I'm going to walk on those coals, I would not have done it. But when you see somebody achieve their greatness, don't be jealous, be inspired. I walked across those coals, 16 feet of 1,100 degree coals. And you know what the message was? I learned it later. Because when you have that blast from the past now, it can be those good things. And so now anytime I'm faced with something that everybody says is impossible, something that I believed was impossible, and I remember walking on 16 feet of coals, that's what you say, that's one of those good memories that can inspire and uplift you. Number two, reflect on the past and move on. In other words, reflect on it, but don't dwell on it. See, reflection is a power tool for growth. But it's the way that you must grow through it. And some people reflect on it and then go from reflection to dwelling. They'll dwell on it. They'll be stuck on it. And they'll never get out of it. See, dwelling too much on the past can prevent you from engaging with what is and what can be. So acknowledge it, reflect on it, but don't dwell on it. You know, I think of one of our friends, Joyce Christie, was sharing a story the other day, and Joyce is usually very, very quiet. And she was saying how she grew up picking, I think, tobacco for $1 a day. And when she looked back on that, that was the inspiration that took her from where she was to living in a multi-million-dollar house, to traveling to every continent on the planet except Antarctica and I think Australia, and being a great thought leader, a great trainer. And so in that instance, that past was a motivating thing to keep you going. So each of us, when we are where we are right now, when we look back at the past, some of those things back there can be reinterpreted as motivating factors to keep you going. Number 3, learn the lessons. Now, one thing, if you look at the past, what's the greatest value of the past is to learn the lessons. Somebody very smart said once, if you don't learn from the past, you're doomed to repeat it. So as we move on to our success journeys, to our journey to happiness, we think about success. We really want happiness. Some folks say, well, everybody has a different measure of success, but when you're happy. So that may take a certain amount of money. It may take a certain amount of relationships, whatever it takes. Let's strive for happiness. So the past is full of lessons, good and bad. But when it calls, pay attention and take the opportunity to learn from it. When you look at some of the things you did in the past, like what are some of the experiences you learned from yourself? When we walked on those hot coals, I learned that seeing somebody else's success can motivate me to action. When we walked on those hot coals, I learned that I always have a frame of reference now, that anytime I doubt myself and don't think I can do it, if I just step out on faith, it can get done. Sometimes you learn lessons about life. There are lessons you have to learn about people. One of the hard lessons in life is when you learn that lesson that you can't change people. You can love them to the nth degree, but unless they want to change and choose to change themselves, nothing is happening. So these life lessons can be transformative. And so thank goodness for the past to point them out. One of the key things is to really look at some of the choices. Sometimes you look back on your life and you say, man, I must have been stupid. How could I do something so dumb? I don't know if this ever happened to you, but I'm going to fess up. I look back and like, man, how could I do something so dumb? Well, the decisions you made at the past were now at the level of consciousness that you had at the past. Oprah says, when you know better, you do better. But now when you look back at the past, you're looking back at it from another level of consciousness. And so now you can look at it and reframe it. You don't beat yourself up and have regrets, but you reframe it and you see those past events. Don't see the defeat, but see your Goliath moment. Maybe somebody treated you like an absolute dog. They lied, they stole, they abused, they did all kinds of terrible things to you, to your family. And that can be a prison. Or you can learn from it and say, well, but I got out of that. But I'm still standing. But I made it through. So focus on that. Pat yourself on the back. And then that fourth key is to focus on the present. See, the past is just the past. You can't change not one iota. I love that. Thank Omar Khayyam. I'll give a paraphrase. It says the hand having written, in other words, the past having been created, the hand having written moves on. No dot, there's nothing you can change about it. But when you use the past now to sharpen your focus on the present. You see, the present is anchored in the past, but it's not controlled by the past. Now where you are at this moment, you can ground yourself right here and now by doing those activities, those thoughts, those emotions, those habits, those relationships that empower you now. When you focus on the present, and when the past comes at you now, you can take that deep breath. Because sometimes there are unresolved issues, unresolved emotions that will cause doubt. And so now you can take that prescription from the Bible. It says, be still and know. Be still and know, like the prodigal son, that I don't deserve to be here. Be still and know that you were created for a purpose. Be still and know that whatever the situation is that you're going through, there's a reason for it. It was necessary for your growth. See, you can't go to what you can't grow through. You know, people seek money. One man worked 10 years. I mean, creative, worked hard. And at the end of 10 years, he'd accumulated $10 million. Another man did nothing for 10 years but buy a lottery ticket every day, and he hit the lottery and he had $10 million. But you know, statistics show over time that many of the big money lottery winners lose their money because they did not grow through the process to attract $10 million. The man who worked hard for 10 years, he went through that evolution. He looked at the past, he looked at the present, he looked at the future and put them all together as one continuous evolution of himself from who he was to who he was destined to be. So now let us bring this whole message home. I hope that it might be the message that you needed to hear at this very moment. So when the past comes calling, thoughts, emotions, habits, relationship, when the past comes calling, it's a signal that something big is getting ready to happen in your life. It's a signal that you need to make some changes, make some growth experiences to be prepared for that next level. To recognize that the past is a lesson, but the past is just a part of your journey. The past is not your destination. It's just a place you had to go through to get to where you are, to go to where you're destined to be. To realize that when you can acknowledge the past, not ignore it, that when you can reflect on it now from your higher level of consciousness, to see it from a different understanding, from a different level of learning, from a different level of experience. When you can reflect on it and then move on. When you can learn the lessons from the past. Learn lessons about yourself, the great powers you have. Learn lessons about other people, maybe that you can't change them. To learn lessons about life itself. That life goes on and you have to learn to navigate it. The game is the game, but you have the ability to design it in the way you want. And then always focus on the present. God's gift to us is the present. That's why it's called the present. Okay? And so when you can acknowledge these four things and use these four things, when you can acknowledge the past without letting it dominate your thoughts, so that you can move through it in wisdom. When you can embrace the lessons of the past and release what no longer serves you. I'm going to repeat that. Release what no longer serves you. Release who no longer serves you. When you can stay open now with a sense of wonder to all the possibilities ahead. When you honor now the entire journey. The past is not a prison. The present is pregnant with potential. But the future will surely come based on the actions you take and the choices you make. So when you can do that, when you can honor this entire journey, and when you can move forward with intention, with purpose, nothing is impossible. You can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have anything you desire. Always knowing that the best is yet to come. And so it is. Let's just take a deep breath for a moment. Thank you for being with us this day. Thank you for sharing these moments with us. Those on Instagram, thank you so much. We'd appreciate your liking it and sharing it, and write some comments. Share your experiences, how you've been able to use the past as a leverage to get to the future through the present. Make comments and share that. Thank you, those of you on Zoom. Hold tight for our discussion. I'd love to hear your feedback and share your experiences on how you've handled the past. Those of you online, be sure to visit our website, herbertharris.com, www.herbertharris.com, and see some of the things we have to help you get where you need to go. The Success Toolbox, the 12 Universal Laws of Success. Even book a call with me. Book a success consultation, a complimentary call to help you understand where you are, where you want to go, and how to get there. Once again, that's www.herbertharris.com. Those of you with us, be here every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. We're here. We're speaking. This is the Success Mentorship Network saying you can be what you want to be, do what you want to do, and have anything you desire. Always knowing that the best is yet to come. And so it is.